What's going on, everybody? This is Clever Gets, and today I am reviewing Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet. I played Pokemon Scarlet version, so technically this is a review of that particular copy, but I feel like everything I say in this review will be applicable to both games. All gameplay you see in this video was recorded by me. It's just mostly random gameplay that I've got, just stuff I recorded on the Switch as I was going through, stuff I found interesting, some stuff relates to the review. Some stuff is just interesting gameplay that I thought would be good for background footage. So just enjoy that. As far as spoilers go in this video, the video will remain spoiler free for the plot of the story, as well as most of the details about Team Star. Gameplay, there will be gameplay spoilers in the background that I'm playing. I don't really feel it. I feel like in order to give you guys a proper review, gameplay is obviously really important, so I don't really want to go through and cut things in and out. Some of the stuff that is shown in the gameplay shown here is important. So I'm going to keep that. So unless you're worried about gameplay, which there isn't too many gameplay spoilers, to be honest with you. I don't show like the Elite Four battle, the champion battle, anything like that. You might see like some gym leaders, some Titan Pokemon, stuff like that. So if you want to avoid gameplay spoilers altogether, I recommend coming back to this video at a later date after you've played the game yourself, or just, stick around and watch the gameplay, see if it's something you'd be interested in. Okay, let's begin. So I want to start the video with the technical side of it because everyone's talking about the technical side of these games. So I'm going to say it very bluntly. Scarlet and Violet they run very bad, but they are good games, okay? So that's pretty much going to be the theme of this review. So, for instance, the game feels very floaty when you're walking. Movement on your legendary, because as we know, you can ride your legendary in this video game. Movement feels floaty. I never really felt like I was actually walking or climbing or swimming. It just feels like floaty, right? It feels like this game needed a lot more time in the oven. Like it was released a month or two too soon. Things feel floaty there. The camera movement. It's nice to have camera movement. In Sword and Shield, camera movement was pertinent in the wild area only, and in previous Pokemon games, we've never had camera movement. So, being able to move your camera everywhere except for indoor locations, that's really nice. And even in indoor locations, you can move it around a little bit. But you don't really need to move the camera around all that much indoors because you can pretty much see the entire building on your screen for the most part. And yeah, being able to move your camera around wherever you want outside, extremely, extremely nice. As far as some other technical things that help the game, the map is nice. Hitting Y, being able to fast travel in the game is awesome, just via air taxi. The old teaching your Pokemon fly mechanic is gone. I don't think we'll ever see stuff like that again. We'll never see HMs. We'll never see strength, cut, fly. That is gone. It's a big quality of life update we saw that started in Sun and Moon and has been carried over and over and improved at every Pokemon game. This game feels more like fast travel than ever. So that's good. And the map is nice. It's a pretty big region. Paldea is a very beautiful region. I like it. We're going to go a little more into that later. And then the Rotom phone. So the Rotom phone it's okay. It's good. I'm glad they kept it around ever since Sun and Moon. It's better than just having like a normal thing. I liked it more when Rotom was a Pokedex, actually, less than a phone. So in this game, Rotom is your phone, but in previous games, Sun and Moon, for example, he was actually your Pokedex. So I actually prefer it when Rotom is your Pokedex. I think we see the personality a little more. This one just kind of feels like it doesn't really feel like a Rotom phone. It feels like a Rotom themed phone, which, it's okay. It's better than like your standard, cell phone, but it could have a little more personality. That's pretty much it for technical stuff. The game is it has a lot of frame rate drops. There's some parts you can probably see it in the gameplay I'm showing, but there's a lot of areas where characters feel like they're just glitching through the map when they're supposed to be walking. There's certain times when my Pokemon is jumping up when it looks like it's like teleporting. It just looks weird, right? The game looks, again, I've already said it, but I'll say it again. The game looked like it needed a lot more time in the oven. This is stuff that could have been fixed before before launch, but it wasn't right. I just don't think that Game Freak had enough time to fix it. I think that this game had to come out before holidays because you want those sales before Christmas and stuff. But I think that this realistically is a game that looks and feels like it should have come out in January, February, especially since people complained about Breath of the Wild when Breath of the Wild first came out, and that game came out in 2017, for instance, and that was 5 years ago. Weird that Breath of the Wild came out 5 years ago now, but that game came out in 2017, and people complained about like the grass and like the enemies, the frame rate would drop a bit. This game is like way worse than that. It's worse in every conceivable way. We're going backwards, not forwards. Not a good thing. And I know Breath of the Wild isn't a Pokemon game, but it is one of the more famous Nintendo Switch games out there. And I feel like comparing it is fair. Okay, so let's move on to some of the gameplay with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. So obviously one of the big things about this game is the new terraforms of Pokemon. I'm excited to see this implemented into the Pokemon trading card game in some form. So on its surface, terraforms is just a Pokemon enters terraform, and then it gets a crystal on its head, which changes its typing. And what that crystal looks like depends on its typing. So for example, like a steel type terraform Pokemon has like an anvil on its head. It's an interesting mechanic. I can tell they were definitely going for something new. It doesn't necessarily ride home for me personally. I can see the appeal behind it. It's not like a crazy, oh, look at my terraform who's a Pokemon. Look at my terraform Fuecoco or whatever, right? It's not like overly exciting. It doesn't give back that magic of Mega Evolution, which came out years and years ago. That magic isn't there. Even Gigantamax, in my opinion, was more interesting because Gigantamax, at least you would get a form change. This mechanic, you don't get any sort of form change. This is the first region in a long time where we don't have any new form changes with the Terra Pokemon. It's just pretty much a crystal on your head, and it's fun, but it doesn't take it to the next level at all, really. Okay. Next off, sorry. This is my first video game review. Let me know how I'm doing in the comments. The game is open world, and depending on where you go to start, it is hard. The game can be very hard. So what I mean is it's open world, but it's kind of open world. There's definitely gyms that are intended to be fought earlier on. But obviously they do open it up. So it's meant to be like, oh, you can fight any gym in any order. It's advertised as like that. It's shown like that. It's like, but it doesn't really feel like that. I personally went east when I first started the game. And my plan was to just work east, up to the north, down west, and kind of work in a big circle around the map because it's kind of a circular map. So I wanted to work in a big circle. Not a good strategy. I ended up moving east. First couple challenges were super easy, but then I started getting into challenges where the Pokemon were 10 levels above me, 15 levels above me. I stood no chance. So I actually ended up getting stuck in certain areas for hours, which made my gameplay experience take a lot longer than it should have because I didn't really want to use any guides for this review. I wanted the review to be me taking my experience and telling you guys about how it was. So yeah, I didn't really want to use any guides or anything. So I kind of had to jump around the map in order to get the right order to do things. And that's kind of open world, but it doesn't really feel open world. A true open world Pokemon game would allow me to go to any gym in any order, fight any Team Starbase in any order, fight any Titan Pokemon in any order. But it didn't really feel that way to me. It felt like I was being constrained. I couldn't go to this one because I'm not strong enough yet. And I understand that they can't make the end game gyms level 20 in order so you can't. But if they could introduce some sort of way for the computer to automatically ramp up the next gym from the last in any order, that would be the way to go. But the open world, I don't want to diss it too hard because it's better than the formula we've had in the past. The open world is awesome. It's great. It does make life a lot easier. And there were times where I was, where I found jumping around the map fun. It didn't feel as linear. Pokemon in the past has felt a little bit linear to me. This game felt less linear than any Pokemon game. And for that, I applaud it. It does need some perfections, right? This is the first Pokemon game where we have had an open world region. So we just need to see this, perfected a little bit. It just needs, again, like I said earlier, it just needs a little more time in the oven. Just needs to be, they just need to learn. Hopefully in the next Pokemon game, we kind of get the same thing. Um, yeah, so open world is awesome. Next thing I want to talk about is some minor story stuff. So if you're worried about spoilers, this is minor. Just going to talk about the beginning of the game mostly. So you are the one of the whole like points of this game is you are a student. You are on an adventure for your school. But you are a student first, right? And then you're kind of a trainer. That's what they're saying. You're a student trainer, right? So the school aspect is fun. I like the school aspect. It's a little different than in the past. It's different than, oh, you're 10 years old, go on your Pokemon journey, shoo. No, it's kind of like, oh, you're in private school. The private school wants you to actually go on a journey, and they're going to even teach you, and your professors are going to meet you along the way. Your homeroom teacher meets you. Um, and then yeah, it's fun that you're in a school. It's kind of a new mechanic. It adds some story stuff to the game. You can even take classes if you want. It's fun. It's better than just the standard formula. It's not like I would say I want to be in a school every Pokemon game, but to change it up a bit for this one time, it's a good change. Team Star is our main team for this game, and I gotta say they were okay. They weren't like Team Plasma, Team Galactic, Team Rocket good, but they were better than like teams like Team Flare. Team Flare was probably one of my least favorite teams in a Pokemon game. I like them more than Team Skull, which I know a lot of people like Team Skull. I wasn't crazy about Team Skull. So, Team Star, they were okay. And I don't really want to give away why I don't like them as much because it would kind of give away some story stuff. But I will say that, it kind of felt like they were just there. It didn't really feel like a story to me. It felt like just a bunch of events kind of pushed together with a cutscene because this game has three different stories in it, three different campaigns you have to be doing simultaneously. And in order to do those three campaigns simultaneously, some of them don't really like connect with each other all that well. So like, for example, there's three paths, right? There's the Victory Road path, there's the Starfall path, and there's the Path of Legends. On Victory Road, that's your traditional Pokemon game, right? You go through, you do your 8 gym battles, and then you fight the Elite Four champion, all that. On Starfall, you're supposed to be going through these Team Star bases, and that's the Team Star story. And then the Path of Legends, there's these not little, huge. There's these Titan Pokemon that you're supposed to hunt, and you're supposed to discover kind of like the secret behind them. And on the surface, this sounds amazing, and it really is. This is better. Having three different paths like this and having to juggle between each of them is definitely definitely hats off to Game Freak because that was fun being able to do that. Again, it feels less linear. It feels like I've been saying it for a lot of years, right? And the YouTube channel is obviously still really young, so you guys don't really know what I've been saying for years and stuff yet. But for years, I've been saying that Pokemon kind of feels just a little tiny bit like Call of Duty to me, where it's kind of like not like don't over dramatize that at all or take it all out of context, but it does kind of feel like it's kind of the same thing a lot of the time. And then Arceus really broke that mold when we got Pokemon Legends Arceus. So yeah, I don't want to say it's Call of Duty in the sense that it's the exact same because a lot of people say Call of Duty is the exact same. Pokemon's not the exact same every year, but it's the same formula, right? So yeah, this kind of three campaigns does go for a new formula. And as I was saying like before, back on the topic of Team Star, yeah, it just feels like a lot of these bases are just kind of go in, fight your base, and then it feels like there's like one cutscene to connect them in between each one, and then it kind of culminates to a decent conclusion with a kind of okay plot twist, I guess. It's okay. They're okay. They're not bad, but they're okay, right? They don't really, again, they don't take it to the next level for me. Okay, and then we have some other small gameplay stuff that I want to talk about before I go into the summary. The post game. So the post game, in my opinion, is one of the most fun parts of Pokemon ever. Right? We had Pokemon X and Y had a whole other campaign with Looker in the post game, and that was awesome. Pokemon Sun and Moon and Ultra Moon and Ultra Sun had like that tree that you could go up and fight different trainers. That took a lot of time to get through. And it also had the other campaign in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Just in the past, there's been some really amazing stuff. This game doesn't really do that at all. The post game in this game isn't there for me. So the post game in this one, minor spoilers here. Not really, because there's nothing really to spoil, but it's really just, going through kind of fighting the Titan Pokemon again. You get the opportunity to capture them. And then there's, you can fight the gym leaders again, and that's about it. There's not much to post game in this video game. It's mostly, the typical, go complete the Pokedex and go find shinies. That's pretty much all you're doing once you beat the game here, or at least that's what I personally found. Let me know if you disagree in the comments. And that great personality is kind of lost in some places in that post game as well. Like, for example, one my favorite Pokemon game of all time is Pokemon Black and White 2. And in that game, and in Pokemon games past, even going back to 1998 when Red and Blue were released, you could go into every house you saw. In this game, you can barely go into any. That's a bit of an issue for me. I'm not saying I want to be able to go through every single door I see, but it was fun to just go into houses and talk to random people, and maybe they'll give you an item, and it gave you incentive to explore. That's not there for me. You can't really go into houses. You can't really do anything, super adventurous like that. It's just kind of like, okay, you're outside, or you're in a shop, or you're in a gym, right? The towns really feel empty because of that. The towns in this game, in my opinion, probably some of the worst Pokemon towns of all time. And I'm not saying they all are, right? Some are better than others, but some of them just felt so lifeless to me, and the same. And I know I'm bashing the game a lot in some areas. It really is a good video game, right? There's that meme I saw the other day before I started playing the game, and it was like, Pokemon fans, when they try to have anything nice, and it shows them like bashing a head against a wall. Kind of. Yeah, maybe we are complaining a little too much because developing a game is harder than it looks, but I'm just telling you guys about my experience. Okay, so summary. After saying all this, I want to say this game is so close to being amazing, but it falls just short of being amazing in so many areas. So much stuff I've talked about can be fixed with just a few little tweaks or just more time developing this game, right? The technical issues, right? The glitching, the bugs, the floatiness. This is all stuff that could be fixed with just a couple more months of development, right? The game it's good. It's a good game, right? And something I haven't touched on yet. My apologies. I've actually skimmed over it in my notes here. But the new Pokemon in this game are some of the best in a long time, in my opinion. I think they knocked it out of the park on Pokemon design here. I think the starters are good. People complain about their evolutions a little too much, in my opinion. I think that all three starters have acceptable evolutions, especially Fuecoco, biased because he's my favorite. But yeah, like Pokemon like Finizen, Palafin. Sorry, I can't really forget a ton of names right now, but that's one that came to my head. They're fun, right? It's a good region full of fun Pokemon. And the Pokemon in this region are very well designed. Definitely better than Galar, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Might be a hot take, but my opinion. The open world is fun, and it has great potential for future installments in the Pokemon franchise. So I'm hoping they take this a step further. I like the story, but it needed a little more build-up. It kind of felt a little more jumpy in some areas. There's one part near the end of the game where you complete the Titan section, and there hasn't been a ton of story in the Titan section up to that point. But then they're like, okay, let's go do this. And then you kind of get like a little bit of story, and then they give you this big plot twist and explain your legendary's origin and stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa, this is like a lot at once with not a lot of buildup, That's pretty much all I can say without going into spoilers. But overall, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, they're good. They're good video games. They're enjoyable. There's just a few things keeping it down from an amazing video game. Right? I think with more time in the oven, this could have been an easy 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10 for me. It's hard to get a 10 out of 10 because Pokemon Black and White 2 are really the only 10 out of 10s I'd ever give to a Pokemon game. But they're fun. They're good video games. I would highly recommend them, especially to any Pokemon fan. Overall, I'm going to give Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet a 7.5 out of 10. And a 7.5 is a good rating on my scale. 5 is average, because that's my first review, so let's explain this. 5 is average. Anything below 5 is a bad. 4 is bad, 3 is worse, 2 is worse than that, and 1 is abysmal, right? So if you're getting above a 5, I consider it above average. 5 is average exactly. So to get a 7.5 is good. There's a lot of stuff I like. 7.5 is not necessarily a bad rating at all. Okay, so overall, 7.5 out of 10. What do you guys think of Scarlet and Violet? Tell me in the comments section. I appreciate you guys listening to my very first review. Please tell me again in the comments section what you thought, what you think I should improve. Subscribe to the channel for more content, more Pokemon reviews in the future, as well as our usual pack openings, set reviews, set previews, all kinds of stuff like that. Follow my Twitter and Instagram. Links are in the description. And I hope everyone has happy hunting. Thank you very much. Goodbye.